Hello, whoever's here right now. Thank you for showing up. And right now, I've been looking forward to this all week. And I have a gentleman that has really been very good to me and has been helping me. I noticed there's a few people in the chat room already. And I just like to say hi to Jimmy Calandra. And Jimmy, can you tell me exactly how to say your last name?
Calandra.
Calandra.
James Calandra.
Yeah, I noticed that when I do a video of you and I watch it over, I have like 10 different sayings for your last name. I am your typical WASP Anglo that doesn't know how to pronounce Italian names.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Right now, just so you do know, we have I'll just say to people in the chat room, Neutral Drop, you're the first one here, Richard P. Edward, the Cannoli. I guess the Cannoli is. Yeah, you recognize that name?
Neutral Drop is my man right there.
Yeah. Well, he's been waiting. He's been looking forward to this. Matter of fact, he says, "Looking forward to this, Jimmy."
Thank
and
you.
Then we have Peter McQuillan and Kumal. Kumal is he's on my son's station, and he's come over here. And Kumal, I appreciate you showing up. And Gilbert and Banksy, Peter, Cherry K. Cherry K is my bodyguard, Jimmy. She's in the chat room. If we get any wise asses in here, she's gonna eliminate them for us.
Yeah, she smacks them.
Yes, she's pretty vicious. So they don't want. I can't name all these names. I can't believe everybody that's here so far. So I do appreciate it, and we're gonna start talking here. Jimmy, why don't you tell us something about you?
About me. Well, I'll tell you, I'm a father of two. I'm a hard worker. I come from a good family. I really was a good kid growing up. I went the wrong direction. In all honesty, I could have been probably a prosecutor or an agent or something because I'm a very smart guy. But I have a lot of regrets in my life, but I stand on everything I did in my life. I take responsibility for it. And, listen, I learn every day. I'm learning every day.
And one thing I've noticed is, and this is what really irritates me, we're going to talk a little bit about Johnny A-Light because I have been talking about him and I have gotten clicks. And to be fair, I got to talk about him. And one thing that really bothers me is Johnny A-Light refers to you as stupid. And that I'm a quick keyboard warrior. So basically, I want to ask you, I've talked to you and I could tell Johnny A-Light right off the bat, James Calandra's a lot smarter than you. And James, how does it feel when you hear stuff like that?
Well, you know what? Look, this guy, I met him in prison. Then he contacted me when he got out of jail. He saw that I cooperated and he figured he cooperated. And I just finished doing a show called Inside the American Mob, episode 6 on National Geographic. He probably thought I could do something for him. And, I befriended him and, shame on me. But I'll tell you, he could call me stupid in front of my face. I mean, if I'm so stupid, you could say it in front of my face.
Right.
My reaction then.
But that's his MO. Whenever he doesn't like anybody, he calls them stupid. His famous word is kid. He calls us grown men kids. He still thinks he's in the streets and he's dealing with kids. But unfortunately, he's dealing with grown men. And that's something that he has to realize. Jimmy has challenged. Why don't you tell us about that challenge that you made with Johnny A-Light?
Well, I gave the challenge for the reason of, listen, I'm a straight shooter. Okay. I don't like to play games. I don't want to go back and forth with this, talking back and forth, calling each other punk and bitch. I got 2 kids, I'm from the street myself. You could call me what you want, but I tell you this, I'm not afraid of nobody. And I feel like, you know what? Let's go take it to the nitty gritty. Best man wins. Win or lose, I'm there. So, that's just how I feel. I'm not into
and see that's it.
Shit.
And And that's the difference between you and him. You say win or lose. You're looking at it in both directions, because the reality is we never know if we're going to win or lose.
Absolutely.
And no one knows how tough Johnny A-Light is except Johnny A-Light.
But I will go in looking for the win.
Yes. And now, why don't you tell us about the time you spent with him when you were in prison?
Well, you know what? He was a Johnny come lately because I had maybe 8 months left on my sentence. Then he came in. I was selling with Gene Gotti for a little while. And what happened was I was walking to the mess hall, and one of the cops stopped me or something. I was actually taking action in the prison. Action is mean taking gambling bets and stuff like that. So one of the cops stopped me to search me, and I told him, "You treat me a lot better than I would treat you." And then what happened was he took me into the hole and arrested me. And I was there for maybe 2 days. Then I came out, and Johnny A-Light was selling with Gene Gotti.
And just to make this clear, there was a rumor going around where Johnny A-Light came forward and said that you smacked Gene Gotti, who was a captain, I believe, in the Gambino family at that time.
Gene Gotti was a captain in the Gambino family, yes. Now, I'm going to tell you, look, I obeyed these rules all my life because ever since I'm a kid, I always had respect for wise guys. I've been around wise guys all my life. So I would never, ever raise my hands to a wise guy, only in self-defense. You know, because I obeyed those rules, and I knew a lot of guys that were in the mob. So I know that if I was going to slap Gene Gotti, regardless of anything, how close I am with somebody, you know what? They would probably give me up and get me killed for that, because that's a rule you can't break.
And talking about this role, you had a very good friend. His name was Paulie, I believe it was.
Yes, Paulie Gulino.
Paulie Gulino was very close to you, and he was a very tough guy. He has a reputation that lasts to this day on Bath Avenue. And I like to ask you, he made the mistake of, did he even touch? Explain that story to us.
Well, what happened was we were having some beefs with some Bay Parkway kids. Anthony Spero was telling Paulie G to, take it easy. You got to forget about this, and you got to move forward and move on. And Paulie G was the type of person where, they killed our friend Chestnut. So he wanted revenge for Chestnut. And in the middle of a conversation, he pushed Spero out of anger. And that's when he signed his death certificate.
And how was that? How was that carried out? Were you told?
That was carried out at this time. I got picked up May 10th for a bank robbery of 1993. Paulie G was murdered. His actually anniversary is coming up, July 26th of 1993. He was murdered. That was my friend Tommy Reynolds and Joey Calco. They went to his house. They rang his bell. He opened up the door for them. Okay. And Paulie G always told me, he said, when I die, he said, I want it between the eyes. I want to see it. But you know what? They don't even have respect for him. They had to give it to him back of the head. And they asked him for a bottle of water. Can I have something to drink? So when he opened up the refrigerator like cowards, that's when they put it in the back of his head. So that goes to show you what kind of life that is.
And these guys were part of his gang and his friends. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely.
And he trusted these men. Of
course. That's just who's going to kill you.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's who comes and gets you is your friend. They know that's going to be the ones that get you. And that's the sad part. So did this begin to turn your life around when this happened to Paul?
Well, you know what? At this time, I was in federal penitentiary. I was actually in MCC fighting a case. I had another case pending in the state. I beat up a guy with an axe handle. And I ended up going to Lewisburg. When I got to Lewisburg, now, as I'm in Otisville, my uncle Mikey DeSantis is there. He's a wise guy uncle. his brother Frankie married my mother's sister Carol. Now, I was walking around with him, spending time with him. When I got to Lewisburg, he reaches out to a guy, Oscar Desarian. Okay, Oscar is a street guy, a Mad Hatter back in the day. He reaches out. He's in contact with Maddie and Herbie. He tells them, I'm on my way. When I get there, they're waiting for me, and they teach me the ropes.
No.
I'm doing prison time.
And going in today's show, we're not going to name who or people, but there were people that didn't want this show to happen today. Is that correct?
Yeah, I guess a couple people, didn't want it to happen. But listen, hey, I'm not looking to hurt nobody. Okay, all I want to do is speak the truth. That's it.
Right, and that was because I don't see me or I don't see you telling anybody else how to do their show. So I don't think that anybody should be telling anybody, about show. We're not going to be here. The only people that we're going to say anything about would be Johnny A-Light. And Johnny A-Light started this with you. Would you be able to tell me how this originally started between you and Johnny?
Well, this started what happened was I was in contact with Joey Calco. Joey Calco is the guy who killed my friend Paul Gulino. Okay. And I was ready to have him sit down with me on Sammy's show. So I was being friendly to Joey Calco. And what happened was all of a sudden, Johnny A-Light is in Florida and he's with Joey Calco and they're in a picture together. Now, this kid, Johnny A-Light, was supposed to be friendly with me. So when he took that picture with Joey Calco, I knew right away he had no respect for me, because it's one thing. It's like me taking a picture with John Jr. I'm saying that's his arch enemy, John Jr. So if I took a picture with John Jr., he would probably say, Jimmy, what'd you take a picture with John Jr. for? You're supposed to be my friend. So once I seen the picture with Joey Calco, I knew that this guy wasn't my friend. And then there's another incident that happened. He wanted me to go on his show, the Gene and Johnny show. Okay. And he reaches out to the kid, Gene Borello. I meet him in Sheepshead Bay, and he don't call me. I did time with this kid, Johnny A-Light. He don't call me and say, Jimmy, would you mind coming on the show? Instead, he reaches out to Gene Borello because now he's too big. See, he thinks he's a big shot, this kid. He thinks he's still in the mob. Johnny A-Light, you're not in the mob no more. You're not in the mob. But you're not in the mob, pal. Believe me.
And this is the funny.
You're far from a tough guy, that's for sure.
And this is the story that Jimmy told me that I find quite funny. When these guys that have all ratted and they get out, can you explain to me what exactly they do when they all get out?
I'm going to tell you the truth because I really don't know what they do. But I know they get together and they hang out and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you the truth. Look, I'm not in touch with nobody. You know what I'm saying? Because I have 2 kids to raise. When I came forward, that life of mine is over. I'm saying I was defeated. I sat down with the feds. When I sat down with the feds, I told the prosecutor like this, my exact words: I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm not going to lie for you. That was my words to them. Okay.
And why don't you explain to us exactly your deal with the feds? Because everybody will say, they'll say, well, he's a rat too, or he's a rat. And I look at your situation a lot different than other people's situation. Can you please?
Look, everybody justifies the reason they flipped or cooperated or ratted for themselves. My reason is because, look, first, you killed my best friend. That's number one. And second of all, you know what? I went to go do a home invasion, okay? And we got the misinformation. And this kid, Tommy Reynolds, ends up killing a woman by accident that we all have to live with for the rest of our lives. So there's a lot of twists and turns in this life. They say, if you carry a sword, eventually you're going to use it. And, Tommy Reynolds pulled that trigger by accident, and I had to live with this for the rest of my life with a woman on my back, on my shoulder,
Yes.
And it's a sad thing, and then I got this punk wants to say that Jimmy Calandra is the one who pulled the trigger. I mean, this kid is nothing but a liar. And then what he wants to do is he wants to get other liars, like a guy, Mike Jacobs, that I never even met before, okay, and say that I sent his wife a text message. Which, if I sent his wife a text message, I'm sure I got a text message from her too.
Right. So that whole text, that seemed to be their thing. They had this attack on you for a couple of days.
This is what look. This is what they do. Especially this kid Johnny A. Light. He's nothing but the ringmaster. What he does is he has all these guys. He can't stand on his own 2 feet. He has to throw 10 names into the mix. Chris Paciello, this one, that one. He throws everyone's name into the mix because he can't fight his own battles. He needs a team behind him. But when you get in that ring, you're going to be by yourself.
No.
So you ain't going to have your team with you. I have my team too. But when you get in the ring, you're going to be by yourself. Remember that.
And I want to talk about 302s while I have you here. 302 is pretty much what you sit down and you sign with the Department of Justice. Is that correct? And
a 302 is information that you give. For example, if we sit down with a prosecutor and there's an agent there, now anything we say, they're writing down. That's a 302, our information on a piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, these 302s, just so you know, John Gotti Jr. admitted to doing a 302. But his 30, and I'm not defending nobody, but I'm telling you the truth here. John Gotti's 302 never showed up in court, never had anybody prosecuted, and was never used in any type of trial. Now, A-Light did, he did what, 200 302? So, an insane number. It was a huge stack.
Yeah, he's got a big stack.
200 people.
My 302s is like maybe this big. Really? I mean,
and Johnny A-Light likes to use the word snitch and rat, but he did his 302s affected over 200 people. He had 200 people's names in those 302s.
Lee, look, there's men in prison doing life bids that really believe in this life. So I'm going to tell you something. If you sit down with the prosecutor, even if you don't put anybody away with your information, you're still considered a rat. I mean, I have to say it the way it is. Yep. I mean, in all honesty, I hate the word, but you know what? I have to say it the way it is because you got guys that are doing life bids that are in the street right now that really believe in this life, until they get defeated and then they say, you know what the fuck was I thinking? I'm taking this life over my family, over my children. Sometimes people have wake-up calls because it's life or death.
And Charlie Fellows brings up a good thing. This name, I got to speak about it. Tommy Karate doing 10,000 years, never mentioned no one's name. True Omerta. Would you agree with that? Tommy
Karate is a serial killer. Okay, he's a thug, he's a hoodlum, and if he has it out for you, you're a dead man, you're done. I mean, he belongs where he is. I'm sorry to say that, but anyone that wants to chop people up and chop a woman's head off and stuff like that, they don't belong in society. I'm a grown man now. I know right from wrong. I grew up. I'm not a kid no more. I don't look up to those guys no more. I have respect for certain people, but that life is over for me.
Would you put Tommy Karate at the same level as Roy DeMeo?
Absolutely.
Wow.
They would get along very well.
Now, for people that don't know Roy DeMeo, he ran a place called, basically Murder Machine is what they called him, and he had a bar, and they used to kill people in this bar, and they used to cut them up, dissect the bodies. Eventually, Roy DeMeo got killed. And they found him in the trunk of a car.
Yes.
And but his story, he's as brutal as they came. People were scared of him. As a matter of fact, Sammy did a show, and Sammy was talking about meeting him. I don't know if you ever seen that show. And Sammy walked out of the place after he talked to Roy DeMeo and said to the guy with him, "That guy's a fucking serial killer." It's pretty, just the way he described him. And to tell you how popular you are, Jimmy, right now we have 200 people watching this show live.
Nice.
That is huge numbers for a live show, just so you know. Nice. So, and I would tell people, if you have not been to Jimmy's show, Jimmy, tell them the name of your show, please.
My name is Jimmy Calandra, Beth Avenue Story.
Yeah, it's such a great show. You really go over there and please, and at my show too, if you can sign up for it if you haven't, and give us a like, we'd appreciate it too. It's kind of funny because I never knew this show was going to take off the way it has, and I've seen nothing but compliments in here, Jimmy, for you. I'm reading all these things coming in.
That's very kind. You know, hopefully your sidekick over there is knocking out all the bad blood.
Boston J says, Jimmy, I'm proud of you. You're a great dad. Proud to call you brother. And
Boston J, I love that kid. He's a good kid.
Yeah. And Christopher DeFao says, Jimmy, do you know Tommy still have friends out there? Yeah, I'm sure he does, but
and that's fine. So do I.
Yeah. Mob Talk Radio, you know right from wrong, but you made okay. He wants to. Okay, Mob Radio says you know right from wrong, but you made threats toward me 4 months ago when I attacked Gene Borello. Care to address that?
No comment.
No comment. See, so this is it. That's the first negative one I read. But you know something? We have 200 people. We have 224 people here, and that's the only negative one I've seen. And I don't know what to say about that one because I got quite a few negative ones with yesterday's show. And what I've been doing is I've been trying to answer them because I noticed that when what's his name gets them, he erases them right away. And I think sometimes it's good to answer people that don't agree with you too. And Neil says, Lee DeMayo's crew was called Murder Machine. This is the name of the book. Yes. Did you ever read that book, Jimmy?
I'll tell you, I might have read a little of it. I'm really not interested in this stuff.
Right.
So I really don't read stuff like that. I like, other books. I'm more like an Edward Bunker guy. Edward Bunker, he was a felon and he wrote a lot of books. He learned how to write. He's from California. He did a lot of prison time and he made a lot of movies from writing his books. They became movies, Reservoir Dogs and a few other films.
Yes.
So I'm into acting and stuff like that,
That was a great movie. So phenomenal movie. And so from what I understand, today, Johnny A. Light released a video, and I want to answer this because I watched it. He released a video of him in front of the Raven Knight with John Gotti Jr., and it was from the 80s. No one never said that he did not know John Gotti Jr. He did know John Gotti Jr., and because you're standing outside the Raven Knight means squat. Because plenty of people stood outside the Raven Knight that were not made men. And so today he put this up and he was showing it like it was like, see, it proves that I am who I say I am.
This guy, he has a lot to prove. So he has to keep on proving himself. He was at the Raven Knight and, he was capable and he was in their company and stuff like that. Listen, there's no doubt. I'm sure he was in their company at so many times. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, I used to walk in the social club. I was around a lot of wise guys, a lot of people. I was in an indictment with Anthony Spero. Anthony Spero he was just like the John Gotti of my neighborhood.
Right.
So, listen, I'm sure you were around a lot of people. I mean, unfortunately for, John Gotti Sr., you know what? There was always a camera around for him. So you know what? If you were hanging out with him, you did get on camera. If you go around other guys, they're not detective. They're very low key, So, I'm sure there's a lot of film with him.
Yeah. Matter of fact, for as much as he says he's, here's what's really good. The biggest joke that I've ever heard from him, and when he showed up in his show today, he had a baseball bat in his hand. And he was saying that he sells baseball bats because he used to play baseball. He never said that before. That's the new one. Because I've been attacking him unmercifully about that Dayton baseball bat and how he says that he's straightened out his life and how he's selling baseball bats. And yesterday I explained to people, if you had $200 for $35 more than you can get a Mike Stanton baseball bat, you can get his baseball bat signed. So, I'm almost prepared to buy 5 of them. And
you know what? A lot of people are intrigued by this mafia mob stuff, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that will buy his baseball bats with his signature on it. I don't know why they would, but a lot of people are intrigued, and shame on them for buying a baseball bat with his signature.
Yeah,
I'm looking for a baseball bat with Mickey Mantle's signature on it.
Well, can you imagine what that's worth, though? John
I want one of them.
Yeah, Johnny Light thinks that his baseball bat's going to be worth a couple $1,000s. So,
well, Roger Maris.
But if Johnny Light knew that right now we had 260 people watching a live show, he'd probably be a little bit disturbed that we're talking about him. So, it's kind of funny because the number just keeps 270 now. So the number just keeps going up.
Yeah, he'll be all right.
Yeah. So let me see. Some people ask. There was one good question here. Oh, well, this Michael Stone writes plenty of. So these things are going so fast I can't keep up with them. Okay, it says, wasn't Johnny A. Liar John Gotti Jr.'s maid? So of course he would be seen with him, and that's what we're trying to say. I want to see it. Then he tried to say people were arguing that John Gotti Sr. came up to him in the tape and shook his hand. He didn't. It's a lie. He didn't touch him. It was like he was looking at him and actually saying, "What the hell are you doing here?" But would you say that if John Jr. bought Johnny A. Light to the Raven Knight, he had to ask his dad first?
No.
You don't think so?
No. I don't think he would have to ask his father if he's rolling with John Jr. John Jr., I'm sure, if the father don't like him, the father will whisper in his ear later and say, listen, don't ever bring him here again. So, listen, you learn your lessons as you go along. So, listen, there's no doubt that John Jr. and Johnny A. Light were good friends at one time.
Yes.
That's not even an argument.
Yep, it's not.
That's not an argument. This is the argument. You were not a hitman. That's the argument.
How about the fact that he was sitting by the phone waiting for the call when Paul Castellano was hit?
Listen, it's all absurd and it's ridiculous. It really is. At that time, when they killed this guy, there was a Mad Hatter hit team on this guy. Everybody was a killer. So they didn't need Johnny A. Light. That's for sure.
And I'll tell you one thing about John Jr. What John Jr. said. Now, we all know that Sammy Gravano and John Gotti had issues between the two of them. And they both are right and they're both wrong. I'm sorry. They both did things they shouldn't have done to each other. But the reality is John Jr. says this. John Jr. says, you could say what you want about Sammy Gravano, but Sammy Gravano was the real thing. That's what he said. And I thought that was big for him to say that. And he said, Johnny A. Light is nothing. And he said that that Sammy Gravano was the real thing. Would you agree with that?
Well, listen, Sammy is definitely a gangster. I spent a little time with him. Look, if you read about Sammy, you're going to think, he's shrewd and, stuff like that. But if you meet Sammy, I'm telling you, Sammy, he's going to make you laugh. He's a hell of a guy. He's a nice guy. And you know what? Listen, he's at a different place in his life. Back then, as you grow older, you slow down a lot. I mean, this guy's a grandfather now. And he's a businessman. I mean, he has a podcast that's doing very well. God bless him.
He's the one that opened up the mafia lore, the shows and stuff. I think it's Sammy that really opened up the door for that.
Yeah, look, Sammy's a really good guy, man. So, I'm gonna leave it like that.
I just remember one thing. Michael Francesi, have you ever met him or do you know him?
I never met Michael Francesi. You know what? Listen, they were supposed to do this sit down with him and Michael Francesi. And I came out of my mouth and I was biased because, I was more friendly with Sammy. And I said a couple of bad things about Michael Francesi, which, I take back. Because, honestly, I got to tell you, the guy Michael Francesi, he's a class act. He really is. He's a class act. Forget about as far as he's like the preppy mafioso guy.
Yes.
But listen, the guy's a class act. He has a family. He believes in God. I respect people like that. Every so often, listen, I get a little out of control and I act foolishly and I say stupid things, but then I look back and these are two guys I'm going to tell you that you can learn from, Michael Francesi and Sammy the Bull. You can learn from both of them.
And I like what Michael Francesi originally spoke very negatively of Sammy, but then changed as the last couple of years went by. That's what I've noticed about his shows.
Well, you know what? Well, there you go. I'm actually saying right now that I spoke negatively on Michael Francesi, and now I'm taking it back and saying, you know what? He's a class act. So you know what? And throughout the course of life, you know what? You learn from the mistakes you make and the things you said. So, but listen, out of those guys, Michael Francesi is a great guy. And, I spent some time with Sammy. Sammy's a great guy too. Listen, whether people are going to argue with me about it, and I know, there's a lot of people don't like Sammy, but listen, I have to say it the way it is. The guy treated me like a sweetheart, and I had some fun with him, and
well, I think that's one of the things that really, a matter of fact, a couple insults towards Sammy came from John Lay. And I don't know if Sammy's seen them, but if you can watch a couple of his recent videos. One, he said that he was upset that Sammy made you legitimate by having you on his show. And on top of that, you spent a few days with him and you have some awesome pictures on your Instagram.
Well, listen, I was legitimate regardless.
Yes.
I got on a plane. I went to go see Sammy. I sat down with him. I spent a couple of days with him. We had a nice time. We had a couple of dinners, and we ate like gentlemen, and we had nice conversations. For you to get on your podcast and talk bad about Sammy, if you have a beef with me, talk bad about me. Sammy has nothing to do with this. If you don't like the fact that I was on Sammy's show, you know what? Too bad. It ain't your show. You run your show the way you want to run it. Everybody else runs their show the way they want to run it. You ain't nobody.
And I think Johnny A, that's what's really gotten to him, is the fact that the king of the podcast for this genre is Sammy Gravano, and he's never been with Sammy. And I really believe that is what his issue is with you. That's what I'm just coming to. I might be wrong, but I believe that's the problem. And
you know what? Listen, he'll get over it.
Well, it's kind of funny though, because when I see it, I was like, holy shit, I can't believe you sitting down in the diner like that. That's pretty incredible. And, it makes me think different. I can say this. I've been around gangsters. I know some pretty high gangsters. There's no doubt, but I'm not a gangster. Does that make any sense to you when I say that?
Absolutely.
And I was talking to you yesterday about the calling cards.
Yes.
Why don't you give us a little detail on the calling card scheme? It was one of the biggest schemes in the history of the Mafia.
It was one of the biggest money schemes because all these calling cards, they made so much money. Joe Watts was like the king of these calling cards back in the day. You pay for a calling card, for example, you go in a candy store, you buy a $20 calling card, and you could call out of the country. You get so many minutes, maybe a half hour, an hour for $20. I don't know, maybe even more. But it was such a scheme because they made so many millions of dollars, billions of dollars off of this.
Well, something that I used to do about those calling cards, I used to be given some of those calling cards and half of them didn't work.
Yeah, there you go.
And we would go, like we go to Syracuse and you look for the stores, the bodegas and stuff, or, you actually go to the immigrants that barely could speak English but had a store, and you would give them some cards that worked. And the next thing you know, they would take a stack from you and pay you a lot of money. And then they would have to pay the repercussions of the customers saying, hey, these cards don't work. So, and we've come so far. I mean, this was just 20 years ago, and now we have cell phones. I mean, it wasn't that long ago with these calling cards.
It's insane.
Yeah, it is. And I'd like to ask you another thing. When you started your show, did you expect that you were going to get as popular as you did, as quick as you did?
I tell you, I didn't. And, I was talking with family members are shutting it down, and they said, no, keep on going, keep it up. And, I didn't think I, was going to get, all the subscribers I got. But you know what? Thank you. Listen, I love these people that are supporting me. Obviously, they're smart people, so, I appreciate them. And, I want to send them some love back,
Well, this is how I pretty much started meeting Jimmy. The first show I ever did, I just went off on everybody, including Jimmy. And then all of a sudden I noticed these people in my chat room saying, wait a minute, you could talk that way about John. You could talk that way about Sammy. You could talk, but don't talk that way about Jimmy. And I said, I got to check into this guy. And so I started watching his video, but at the same time, he was watching me. So, or what did you say? Your girlfriend?
My sister told me, said, Jimmy, this guy's talking about you. So then I started watching. I said, why? I was listening. And I said, wow, I actually like this guy.
Yeah. Well, it's because I realized you were a lot like me. You were that guy, that street guy. You were that guy that did all the work. It's like John would say, Johnny Light would say, we did all the work, meaning hits and stuff. But you would say the realistic things. Most mafia guys don't go out hitting people. It happens, but a lot of them go out and they do work, and it could be anything. It could be robbing cars. It could be robbing stores. Can you tell us the story about, I'm going to have to walk away for 1 minute because I'm old.
Okay.
But can you tell us the story about the bank you robbed?
Sure. About the Staten Island Mall?
Yes.
Yeah, the Staten Island Mall Bank. It was me, Chris Paciello, my friend Gerard Bellafiore, William Galloway, and Tommy Reynolds. This was actually another kid's score. Chris gave it to us. We started looking at it, and then we decided to do it. Chris was the crash car. The day we did it, he walks in the bank with a walkie-talkie. He's watching this lady put all the money from a night deposit box into a shopping cart. When all the money's into a shopping cart, me and Tommy Reynolds gets to go from Chris. He tells us to go. We walk in there with axe handles. I break the window. It smashes, boom. And I jump through the window. I grab the shopping cart full of money. I hand it to Tommy Reynolds. Tommy Reynolds hands it to Kid William Galloway. They put it in a stolen truck, van, and then we just drive right to Chris's house. He had an open garage opener. We go underneath, right into an elevator, right into his house. We count the money, maybe close to $500,000.
And how much money would you say that each one of you's got?
Oh, at that score, we got maybe, I would say, maybe 70,000 a piece, 70-something thousand a piece. I mean, that was nothing. I did a couple other banks too. We got $1 million out of a night deposit box one time. So, a lot of money went through my hands. The thing with me is that I never thought it would end. I always thought, we'll do another score, Yeah. And then you realize, what? You learn as you grow up, and you say, well, what? Nothing lasts forever.
And I was telling you that I was a wanted fugitive for almost 9 years. And being a wanted fugitive, when I eventually wind up going before the judge, I remember everybody died on the case, the DA and the judge, the original judge. And the judge said to me, well, you've been in jail for 9 years. You've been running from the law. and he let me out on $90 bail after running for 90 years. I mean, for 9 years.
Nice.
And then they wound up dropping everything. But you know that feeling of when you're wanted and every car that comes around the corner, or, you know, if a cop car pulls up behind you, and how many times have you had warrants, you know, would you say?
Well, me personally, I tell you the truth, I never missed a court date.
You were smart.
I never missed a court date. I really never had a warrant out for me. So I always showed up for my court dates. If I made bail, I showed up. I remember going to court one time with a bulletproof vest on, you know, back in the day. I walked with a bulletproof vest and everything. And, you know, but that's the life I was living at that time. You know, always having a pistol on me. You couldn't trust nobody. People were getting killed left and right in the neighborhood. You know, I mean, you didn't know who your friend was, you know, until, you know, I mean, look at my friend Paulie G. You know, like his sister said, he said, you know what, one thing about my brother, he didn't know who his friends were. And that's the truth, because he opened up the door to his killers.
Yes.
You know? So, you know, listen, hey, it's a hard pill to swallow. You know, when you know, you got your own friends killing, you know, your best friend. You know, we're all making a pact together. We're all protecting each other, and then, you know, you're killing your best friend. I mean, you know, me personally, listen, I can never kill my friends. You know, I wasn't a killer. Everyone had a function in my crew. I was more like a thief. You know, I like to steal. I like to make money. You know, so everyone had a function. You know, I was involved in a couple homicides, and you know, it's things I regret looking back. But you know what? It's something I have to live with. You know, and now I got 2 kids where I just want to watch these kids grow, and I want to teach them, because, you know, as you know, this world is not safe. You know, anyone could just walk out the door and anything could happen. You know,
Look what just happened in Miami. I mean,
exactly.
you just never know when it's going to happen. Right. And, you know, that's another thing you said to me that I really respect, is the fact that you talk about how important those 2 children are to you. And that's what happened to me. I raised 2 children, and I straightened my life out, and they grew up, they got out of, and now they're doing well in life. And the only thing
anyone who really personally knows me, they know how close I am with my kids. And that's anyone in my inner circle. I have a couple of people in my inner circle, and they know how much my kids mean to me. So that's something that I can't hide. You know,
that means you know, just so you know, right now we're at 343 live viewers watching. So I'm trying to get this to 1 hour, because I don't want to just end the show on them. And we're at 42 minutes right now. But the good thing is, Jimmy and I have been talking about possibly, there's no guarantee on it yet, of doing something together once a week. And if we're going to get this kind of response, I think that maybe we should. So, but, you know, I guess we'll leave that up in the air and we'll discuss it, Jimmy. I guess that it'd be kind of, you ever like Abbott and Costello? They had the straight guy, and then they had the, we just have to figure out who's.
I used to love Abbott and Costello.
We just have to figure out who the straight guy is and who's the.
Hey, I used to love watching them, man. The old movies were the best.
Yeah. And Jimmy, Johnny Epps wants to know: have you ever considered writing a book?
Well, you know, I'm in the process of writing a book. I have a whole bunch of journals, and I'm the type of person. Listen, I like perfection. You know, I'm probably going to write 3 volumes. I'm going to do the 3rd volume first. Then I'm going to go down. I'm writing all about my crimes as I got older. Then I'm going to write about my childhood, and then I'm going to write about prison. So I'm writing 3 journals about my experience with my crimes and my life and things I did with my friends and the loss of my friends. You know, how we went a certain direction, and if we only knew the outcome of what was going to happen, I would have made a turn right away.
You know, that's the truth. You know, as people know here, you know, some people that know me, 4 months ago, my brother committed suicide. He had the 3 most beautiful girls in the world, and he was suffering from depression, and he hung himself. And it's a horrible thing, you know, because he was a street kid. You know, he was the kid that no one ever thought would put his life together. He ran the streets of Yonkers with a street gang. And, you know, as you know, Yonkers was a pretty tough place also. People don't think so, but Yonkers is right next to the Bronx. And what happened is he got lucky, and he became a bodyguard, and he had a good 20 years in life. but the depression caught up with him and he hung himself. And, you know, we're just coming off that as a family.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about that. You know, it's a sad story. And, you know what, look, that's the thing about life. I mean, you know what, you get into depression. Yeah. And the thing is, we all have some kind of problems going on. I don't care if you have all the money in the world. Every one of us are dealing with something. You know, we're fighting some kind of battle, you know.
Yes, and we all have our past. And, you know, that's, you know, and people always judge us by our past, even if we have straightened our life. And that's what really irritates me more than anything, is that people.
You know, and that's the thing, even with me, it's like my past always comes back to haunt me. No matter where I go, I could be in legitimate people's company because I'm around a lot of legitimate people. And there'll always be a whisper, wow, look, that's Jimmy Calandra over there. You know, he was involved in this and, you know, stuff like that. So I hear people whispering, but you know what? I just, hey, how you doing? You know, nice to meet you. You know, I let them see a different side of me. You know, don't believe everything you hear.
Tony Pro says Yonkers, the Tanglewood Boys. So you, Tony Pro, you know your Yonkers. And
yes, the Tanglewood Boys. They were a young crew too.
Yes, and you know, I remember the first time I went to my father's house, and I was going in a closet, and I reached up and found a gun on the top shelf. And I pulled it down, and I started yelling at my brother because it was Tom's gun. And Tom goes, "I'm just holding it for my friend." And I said, "That's how it always starts, Tom. You're holding it for your friend. The next thing you know, you're using it." And
you know what, that is for sure. You know?
Now, when you talk about the streets and the guys, a lot of guys came from your neighborhood that were made men. Would you say that?
100%.
Would you give an idea of who came to that were made men that came from your neighborhood?
Frankie the Chico came from my neighborhood. Nino Gaggi came from my neighborhood that Roy DeMeo reported to. Carlo Gambino came from around my way. Gravesend, Bensonhurst. You know, listen, Carmine Persico. Listen, a lot of guys came from around my neighborhood. You know,
how close was Sammy to your neighborhood?
Sammy came from my neighborhood. I mean, I can name 1,000 guys. I mean, Jerry Papa came from my neighborhood. Listen, a lot of stone cold killers came from my neighborhood. You know, back in the day when I was growing up, you know, the neighborhood was Italian, Jewish, Irish. You had some Puerto Ricans, you had some black here and there, but the Italians controlled the neighborhood. You know, I mean, they were very strong at this time. You know, they had the garment district, they had the private sanitation, they had everything. They had all the unions, you know, and then the government learned from them, and the government took everything. You know, look, when I first came home on my first bid from Lewisburg, I got a job in the concrete union. You know, Manny Madonna put me right into the union. And my job was, I was getting coffee for the guys every day. You know, I was making maybe $300 a day. I was like a shop steward. I was just getting coffee.
Charlie Fellows wants to know if Paulie G never got killed, what do you think would have happened with him?
Paulie G was definitely on his way to Mafia stardom. You know, he was a good-looking kid. He was tough with his hands. Listen, the kid was a killer. You know?
Do you think that when they decided to kill him, that the gentleman that had him killed, do you think he had to ask anybody, or he just decided he was going to do it?
No, he just did it.
And do you think there's anybody got upset knowing that he was an up and comer?
I tell you, nobody could do anything. You know, I mean, when you're pushing a guy like Spero, I'll tell you the truth, you're not, you know, you're not getting any help, no matter where you go. The only help you're going to get is if you take off.
And you know, it's funny too, because when we say it's going to be our friends that come and get us, we'll start saying, but it's not going to be our friends, my friends. You know, and that, I think that's the mistake that is made when people don't think it's going to be their friends. I mean, your group of guys, didn't you guys all grow up together as kids?
Yes.
How old were you when you met Paulie?
Well, I knew Paulie was from Bay 23rd. I was from Bay 16. You know, we always knew each other. I got really close with Paulie G when John Paulie was murdered. Paulie G got a memory piece of John Paulie on his leg. And then after John Paulie was murdered, little Georgie Adamo was murdered. I got a memory piece of little Georgie Adamo on my leg. And we became tight, and we became best friends. You know, once John Paulie was murdered, that was 1988. And that's when we formed the Beth Avenue crew. We all got numbers on our legs. Me, Paulie G, and Tommy Reynolds. We went to 18th Avenue. This guy Mike on 84th Street or 83rd Street, and we went up to his apartment. And we all got numbers on our legs. Paulie G was number 1. I was number 2. Tommy Reynolds was number 3. And then, from there, Paulie G was just telling guys, go get a number on your leg. There were 7 guys that got numbers on their legs, and that was our crew. It was one for all for one, and we were all responsible for each other.
So that means number 3 shot number 1.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, number 7 shot number 1. Number 3 and number 7 are the ones that got together.
But did they really have a choice?
You know what? I tell you, they probably didn't have a choice. But listen, unfortunately, it's done and it's over. But in that situation, I'll tell you the truth. If they would have gave me that job, I would have told Paulie, listen, Paulie, these guys want me to kill you. We gotta get the fuck out of here. I'm saying, me personally, listen, I'm not killing my friend. You could say I'm not fit for this life, and you know what? That's fine. But you know what? I don't kill my friends.
That makes a lot of sense. They could have gave him the warning. But here's the thing: do you think that Paulie G would have taken that warning?
Well, you know what? He probably would have went and go killed them. That's what he probably would have done. And then he probably would have took off. But listen, hey, it played out the way it played out. There's no turning back. There's no saying, if this would have happened, if that would have happened, what happened happened, and that's how it played out.
Yes. And Charlie Fellows also says, Jimmy, did you notice a change in Paulie G when he started hanging around with Tommy Karate? Were you worried about him?
Well, you know what? Well, Tommy Karate gave him a lot of confidence. It basically, if we had a problem with anybody, Tommy Karate was there for us. And he gave us confidence. When you start committing murders, and my best friend is a mad killer. I'm saying, you know what? Okay, we're at a different level now. We ain't kids no more. Now we're killing people. So obviously, we're with a family. So in a way to it, there's a lot of fun you're having at that time. But the thing is, you don't realize the price you're going to pay later on.
There was a good question in here, actually. Now, if you were in jail when this happened, is that correct? When Paulie
I was in jail when they killed Paulie G, yes.
So there's a very good chance you would have been called to kill him.
There's a possibility. But there might be a good chance, too, if he would have never even did that if I was out. I had a different relationship with him,
And was he just at the point where he just was not scared of nobody, no matter who they were?
No, he wasn't scared of nobody.
Sometimes it's better to be scared of certain people.
Yeah, he wasn't scared of nobody.
Now, when you say, and I'm going to ask one more question on this because I find it very fascinating. When Spero killed him, now, do you think that Spero had to go talk to Karate about it?
No. Tommy Karate was in jail already.
Oh, so that was it.
Okay.
Basically what happened there, I think Paulie ran into a whole bunch of bad luck. You weren't on the street. Karate wasn't on the street.
Well, what happened was that he wasn't, his anger overtook his brain. If he would have thought it out and, had a little thinking to it, it would have been a different outcome. But, he also had these guys, Tommy Reynolds and Joey Calco, where they probably wanted his position anyway. They saw this kid, Paulie G, making $10,000 a week with drug money. And, you start catching ideas and you even start making up stories about the guy. I'm saying, you can run back to Spero, Joe Benanti, and, I'm sure Joe Benanti wanted Paulie G dead too. Listen, when you're in the street and there's money involved, people get ideas. I'm saying, so they probably wanted to get rid of him. You know what? Let's get that money. And now I'll have full control, over all these kids instead of Paulie G having the full control. So there's a lot of angles to this, a lot of, ways.
Well, a godfather named John Gotti proved that that's the case when he was yelling about Sammy on the tapes, about business partners and all that stuff. So if you have people that high that could do that to each other, it's being done by everybody.
Absolutely.
And that's all there is to it. And
Well, it just goes to show you. I mean, there's nothing good about that life. I mean, people will argue me and say, "Oh, yeah, you know what? That life is good." And listen, there's nothing good about that life. There's no pension plan to that life. You know what? When you put a saint in your hand and you take an oath to these people and you take these people over your family and your children, you know what? That's not something that I want to do now that I'm a grown man. Maybe when I'm a kid, I look up to this and I'm fascinated with it. But as you grow up and you go through prison and you get defeated, you got your back against the wall and you're losing people as you're in prison. I lost my father. I had to say goodbye to him over a phone. The last 2 weeks before he passed away, I couldn't even talk to him because every time I got on the phone with him, a prison phone, his voice would choke up. He was dying of pancreatic cancer, and my voice would choke up. I couldn't even talk. I had a lump in my throat. So I didn't talk to him for 2 weeks before he passed away. So, I mean, when you go through the heartache and the pain of suffering, being in a prison cell, and you're losing people that you love, you know what? After a while, listen, I was defeated. I said, you know what? I don't want this life no more. Okay? And thank God I come from a good family, and every one of my family was with it. They said, Jimmy, you know what? Do what you got to do. Forget about this lifestyle. Don't throw your life away. You know what? Thank God I come from a good family. It's just a story about John Gotti Sr. is when he died, they made him die with a cuff on his hand, and he was cuffed to the bed, and he slowly choked to death. So even when he was in his final moments, they still wouldn't uncuff him. So Absolutely.
if anybody thinks the life's worth that,
and you can't even die like a human, and that's the thing. I'm sure those people, look at that and they say, you know what, all the pain and suffering they've been through, So listen, hey, life is hard, and especially when you're living in that life, not only that the guy goes away to prison, or whether he cooperates, the whole family suffers. I mean,
Yes.
It's just the way it is. There's nothing good that comes out of this life.
Well, right now we have 408 people watching this show, and I like to say to each one of you, please, if you haven't checked out Jimmy's show, please do so, and please subscribe to it. If you like this, you must be liking our conversation or subscribe to my station, because we promise to give you the best and most honest stories there is, and we're not going to glorify ourselves. We're going to say what we did and what it's done to our life. And, it's something that you said to me, Jimmy, you said this to me last week. When I first met you, you talked about the two girls that you are with and that you take care of. That really made me think, is there anything worth more than that?
No, there's not.
There's
not. Listen, these kids, they love me so much. I take care of them just by seeing the smile on their face. They never want to leave me. I wake up to them. They give me kisses. And you know what? Listen, I love these kids more than anything in this world, And, I'm their protector. I'm their teacher. And that's why, this is what I'm here for.
Ryan Brown says, Lee, you've gained me as a new subscriber. Thank you. I appreciate that. And please subscribe to Jimmy also. Yeah. Somebody said to me, oh, you're just doing this because you want likes and you want people to subscribe to you. And I said to them last show, well, why the hell would I want a YouTube station where nobody's subscribing? We're not going to say, no, we don't want subscribers.
But you know what? Look, this YouTube thing, you find something that you're good at. You fall into this and now you find your calling. I think you're actually good at this. So you know what? Everybody out there, follow Lee Cole III and give him some subscribers. Okay, well, if you like this show, subscribe to him and he'll continue to do what he's doing.
What's funny though, I was when I started my station like a year and a half ago, and I was doing political stuff. People don't want politics. Yeah. So I got some hits, and then I went and helped my son, and then my son started doing well and stuff, and then I got fired. And but my son said that, you know, that his crowd was too young, and Dad, go back to your station. And joking around, I said to him, I'm going to go back to my station and I'm going to pass you. And he laughed and went, Dad. I text him now and he doesn't even answer the text. So, you know, it's kind of funny. I text him, oh, I got 80 new subscribers today. And he doesn't answer me back. He used to always answer me. If I told him I had 1 or 2, he would answer me.
You and him are in competition.
Yeah, well, you know, it's I enjoy doing it with him, but you have to know when not to stop. You know, I've always been one of those people where I lived my life through my son instead of living it through me. And so I just try not to do that. Well, we're at the 1 hour mark. I guess we got to.
So now you're having fun with it.
I am. And I'm at an awesome time. We could talk forever on this show, but we want to save a lot of stuff to talk about. We're at the 1 hour mark. And I'm going to close this out. And Jimmy, I'd like to thank you for being on this show. And I feel guilty as hell closing down with 403 people right now. But all I could say to you is if you're just coming into the show, please watch it from the beginning. Give us some good reviews down there. Let us know what you think. And just check out our stations, and you'll see. I'm not sure if you'll see us together, but maybe sometimes you will.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
Yeah. And, you know, this is really a filling out period of getting to know us. And I'm going to talk a lot about the combat zone in Boston. I'm going to talk a lot about my lawsuit with Vince McMahon, who's a horrible man and hates my guts. I'm going to talk about him. And we're going to talk about some really good mob stories. The difference between me and Jimmy is Jimmy has been more in the trenches than I've been with the mob. So that's our difference. Jim, I'd like to thank you, Jimmy. I mean, I had a great time tonight.
Listen, hey, it was nice talking to you. Like I said, we'll do it again. I enjoyed this conversation. And to all the guys out there, you know what? Thank you for your support. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I know you got my back. I got your back too. And you know, follow Lee Cole. This guy's a good guy, man. So, you know, give him a sub. I appreciate you lying for me like that. Thank you. No, I'm just kidding. Thanks a lot, Jimmy. You take care. I'm going to shut down the show. Just hang on. I'm going to shut it down. You'll